Republican Congressman Matt Gaetz of Florida. He has repeatedly criticized the special counsel's investigation and called for the firing of Robert Mueller. Congressman, thanks so much for being with us.
Thank you.
So I know you're on the president's speed dial, so I do have to ask, have you had a chance to speak with the president of the United States since the release of the IG report?
I have not. I think he's been a little busy trying to make sure that we frame up the sewing together of the Korean Peninsula, so he hasn't had time to call me and share his hot takes.
I wait by the phone. I'm sure you're going to get that call sooner or later, Congressman. Listen, I am sure now that you've had 20 hours to digest it, you've read the report. Are you concerned that that James Comey, the FBI director, treated Hillary Clinton unfairly during the email investigation? Those decisions to give that news conference, the decision to release that letter to Congress in the days before the election, do you feel that was unfair to Hillary Clinton?
I think it was unfair to the American people that James Comey repeatedly violated FBI procedures and that the protocols and processes that we rely upon for the most extraordinary of circumstances, like the investigation of a presidential candidate, weren't followed. And look, I mean, I think that was bad for all of us. Hillary, Trump, the entire campaign in the country.
Did that hurt the Clinton campaign in the days before the election?
You know, so many things happen in a presidential election, it's very difficult to engage in the histrionics, but if Peter Strzok had not prioritized the Russia investigation over the Clinton investigation, the timetable seems to indicate that the revelations regarding Anthony Weiner's email would have come out in September rather than on October, and perhaps that could have worked its way through the political digestive system before the hours before the election.
So you think that the fact that this was held back, the Weiner laptop news was held back, actually may have hurt Hillary Clinton when all
Well, I think what I said is that there's so many alternate causalities in a presidential election, it's difficult to nail that down, but certainly Strzok prioritizing Russia over the Clinton email investigation and the gathering of that evidence was not a good thing for Hillary Clinton, it wasn't good for Donald Trump, and it wasn't good for the country.
Let me tell you what James Comey said about the delay there. He said the FBI had all the information it needed on September 29th to obtain the search warrant, and that it did not seek until more than a month later. The FBI's neglect had potentially far-reaching consequences. Comey told the Inspector General, had he known about the laptop in the beginning of October and thought the email review could have been completed before the election, it may have affected decision to notify Congress. In other words, he wouldn't have told Congress. The public may never have known that the email investigation was reopened, so perhaps that may have hurt Hillary Clinton.
It may have. Again, it's a presidential election and a lot goes on, but I think we can all agree that it's a bad thing when the Inspector General says that the lead agent in the Hillary Clinton email investigation, Peter Strzok, who then becomes the lead agent in the Trump-Russia investigation, when he is, utilizing and accessing bias to prioritize one over the other. And again, that was pretty well reflected in the IG's report. They said they did not have confidence that it wasn't political bias that led Peter Strzok to prioritize Russia over the Clinton email investigation, and that threw off the entire timeline, and it also, I think, began an illegitimate Russia investigation. Remember, he said, "We'll stop Trump," only 9 days after he'd opened up on Papadopoulos, and only 6 days before he was talking with his girlfriend about an insurance policy against the Trump presidency. That is like as good of evidence of bias as you could ever have in a case.
He says, to be fair, to be completely fair, he says, we did not have confidence that Strzok's decision to prioritize the Russia investigation was free from bias. He doesn't say they conclusively found there was bias. He says we did not have confidence that there was no bias. I'm just
That's as
laying
bad
that
as
out
it
there.
gets in an IG report.
I'm just laying out there what was said. And the reason that I keep talking...
When someone says they don't have confidence that there wasn't bias, that necessarily means that bias was present.
I'm just reading you the language that the IG used so the American people can hear what it is and make that judgment for themselves. They also said, by the way, when it comes to the Hillary Clinton email investigation, we found no evidence that the conclusions by the prosecutors were affected by bias. Those are the two different ways that bias is used as a word in this. But I keep asking about the Hillary Clinton email probe in this case because it does seem to me you were open to the possibility that the net impact of all these decisions were made. It's possible, you're leaving open the possibility that it did have a negative impact on the Clinton campaign. Yet,
I just don't know. I just don't know.
You're not ruling it out. Okay,
yeah,
we agree that you're not. We agree that you're not ruling it out. Yet you were out here every day saying that the Hillary Clinton email investigation and those involved in it were out to get then candidate Trump. It just doesn't seem as if those two things could be happening at the same time.
No, look, if you look at the text messages between the people who were the senior folks on the Hillary Clinton email investigation, they're doing everything they can to pave a yellow brick road for her.
Well,
now,
no,
hang
on. You say everything that they did. Everything that they did. Hang on. We're judging the things that they said. They absolutely said the things that they said, and we now have that from this Inspector General report.
They were for Hillary, they were against Trump.
In terms of the things that they did, what they could have done was leak. The fact that President Trump, the candidate, was under his campaign, was being investigated. They were looking into the possibility of Russian collusion. They did not do that. In terms of what they did, that was something that didn't happen, correct?
I don't think that we give the FBI a gold star for not leaking. That's their job. You know, you don't get extra credit for doing your job. Here you saw persistent examples of the very people who should have been holding Hillary Clinton accountable, demonstrating their bias in favor of Hillary Clinton. It's a different question whether or not ultimately Hold on. I let you finish your question. Let me finish my answer. So, you know, whether or not they were effective in helping Hillary Clinton is a different question as to whether or not they wanted to help Hillary Clinton. I think that likely Peter Strzok believed that delaying on the Wiener laptops was helping Hillary. At the end, it may have ended up hurting her. We don't know. But that's why the processes are so important. That's why we should follow them in any circumstance so that we don't have to come back and Monday morning quarterback those decisions.
No argument here. And that's clearly what this Inspector General report says, that James Comey had a choice whether or not to give that July 5th press conference. He chose to do it. That was the wrong choice, it said. James Comey had a choice, it said, whether to release the letter to Congress. He decided to. That was the wrong choice. The Inspector General says. You keep on suggesting this was some conspiracy, though, to get Donald Trump, and that's just not in this IG report. You say that these agents were trying to help Hillary Clinton. Where's the evidence they were trying to help Hillary Clinton before James Comey gave that July 5th news conference?
Well, the fact that they were texting one another repeatedly saying they thought Hillary Clinton should win the election 100 million to 0 is likely evidence that they didn't just hold that opinion at one time, but it was pervasive throughout the decision-making process that these people were engaged in. The fact that they said they could go to Walmart and smell the Trump voters, they were bigoted and dismissive of the Trump movement.
There is no question that these texts between Peter Strzok and Page are deeply troubling. And the new ones we just saw, deeply troubling. The fact that there are 5 people, that is now being looked into. There is no question about that. But in terms of helping Hillary Clinton during the Clinton email probe, that's not here. In fact, it says the exact opposite. It says the opposite. It says we found no evidence that the conclusions by the prosecutors were affected by bias or other improper considerations.
So they acknowledge that bias existed, but they don't find the connection between the bias and investigative decisions. I think that's a decision the American people can make, and particularly the email from Andrew McCabe to the Washington field office is instructive. Andrew McCabe rips this case away from the jurisdiction of the Washington field office so a bunch of people at the head shed at the FBI can cook the investigation, and that's precisely what happened. If we would have followed our normal processes, you'd have had the frontline prosecutors, investigators in the Washington, D.C. field office, and this is why so many retired FBI agents and current FBI agents were livid with James Comey and were emailing him after his really bad announcement saying that if they had done the very same things, they would have been fired and potentially prosecuted.
The IG report,
it shows the double standard.
The IG report,
and by the way, if you don't think there's evidence of that, you need to reread Chapter 12, because Chapter 12 is pretty clear on the manifestation of that bias as it relates to opening up on Trump and Russia.
Again, Trump and Russia, there's a separate IG investigation to that. This investigation deals with the Hillary Clinton email probe.
Well, it mentions Russia, too.
It does come up, but it doesn't reach any conclusions about the Russia investigation.
It concludes that you can't exclude bias as a factor in prioritizing the Russia investigation. That's one hell of a conclusion. The fact that the very reason why Russia was prioritized was bias.
But at the same time, it opens up the possibility that that actually helped Donald Trumk. Again, all I'm saying...
You think it helped Donald Trump to open up on Russia and prioritize that?
In this example, hang on, Congressman, hang on, because I'll let you make your case here. In this case, where it talks about the fact it could not say with confidence that Peter Strzok did not act with bias when he delayed that aspect of the Clinton investigation, it opens up the possibility that it helped candidate Trump and not Hillary Clinton. All I'm saying is if there was a conspiracy, which you have suggested, to help Hillary Clinton, there is no evidence here.
Well, no, just because the conspiracy didn't work doesn't mean it didn't exist. And again, the conspiracy is ongoing.
Do you feel, just last question, do you feel the same way about the Trump Tower meeting between Donald Trump Jr. and Russians promising dirt on Hillary Clinton? Just because the conspiracy didn't work, it doesn't mean it didn't exist. Does that same logic apply there?